The sticky summer heat hung over the small town of Ridgeport, Georgia, like a heavy quilt. The asphalt shimmered, cicadas buzzed, and the air smelled faintly of fried food drifting from a diner off Main Street. On days like this, people tried to stay indoors, but the courthouse square was always alive, protesters on one corner holding up cardboard signs, old men playing checkers beneath the shade of the oak trees, mothers tugging impatient toddlers. Through the crosswalk dot, and then there were the cops. Sheriff Deputy Rick Harlan leaned against his cruiser, sunglasses perched low, chewing a toothpick like he owned the place. His uniform clung tight to his thick arms, the badge gleaming in the sun. To the casual observer, he was just another officer keeping watch. But folks who lived in Ridgeport knew better. They'd seen him swagger, heard his words, felt the sting of his cruelty. Rick Harlan had power, and he loved to use it. Across the square, 19-year-old Emily Carson hurried past the fountain, tugging her sundress down against the wind. Emily was the kind of girl people called small-town sweet. Blonde hair, pale skin that flushed pink in the heat, soft voice that barely carried across a room. She worked mornings at the bakery, saved tips in a jar for community college, and dreamed of getting out of Ridgeport one day, but dreams felt far away that afternoon. She noticed Rick before he noticed her, and a cold shiver went through her chest. She thought of crossing the street, but didn't want to draw attention. So she kept walking, clutching her purse tight, praying he'd look the other way. He didn't. "Hey there, sunshine," Rick drawled, pushing off his cruiser. His boots clicked against the pavement as he closed the distance. "Where you headed?" "In such a hurry?" Emily forced a polite smile, hoping that would end it. "Just home, deputy." He stepped closer, too close. His shadow fell over her as he circled, scanning her like a predator. "That's a pretty dress," he said. "Little short though, ain't it? Might get you in trouble." Emily's heart raced. "It's just a dress." "My mama," before she could finish, his hand shot out. 2 fingers hooked under the hem of her skirt, flipping it up just high enough to expose the edge of her underwear. He smirked. "Yup, trouble." A gasp ripped from her throat. She stumbled back, face blazing red, eyes darting around the square. People saw. A man at the cafe table froze mid-bite. A woman with a stroller turned away quickly, pretending not to notice. Everyone saw, but no one moved. That was the way of Ridgeport. You didn't cross the cops. Emily's voice shook. "Don't touch me." Rick's smile dropped, replaced by a hard glare. "Watch your tone, little lady. I was just making sure you're decent. You ought to be thanking me." Her body trembled with rage and shame, but her mouth went dry. She wanted to scream, but fear held her tongue. And in that moment, when she thought nobody would help, a voice cut through the heavy air. "Take your damn hands off her." The crowd shifted. From across the street, a tall black woman strode forward, her heels striking the pavement like gunshots. She carried herself with the kind of authority that didn't need a badge. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, her eyes sharp, and her navy suit jacket clung to her frame despite the heat. Rick squinted. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" "Attorney Jasmine Cole," she said, flashing a leather briefcase at her side. Her voice was smooth, but laced with fire. "Civil rights, criminal defense, you name it. And I just witnessed an officer commit sexual assault in broad daylight." The square went silent. Emily's breath caught. Rick chuckled, but it was strained. "Lady, you don't know what you think you saw." "Oh, I know exactly what I saw," Jasmine shot back. She stopped 2 feet away, looking him dead in the eye. "You used your authority to humiliate a young woman. That's a crime. And if you think your badge makes you untouchable, think again." The crowd began to murmur. Phones came out recording, streaming. Finally, people dared to look. Emily felt her knees wobble with relief. Someone had stepped in. Someone brave. Rick stiffened. Jaw tight. He glanced around at the cameras, then leaned close to Jasmine, lowering his voice. "You don't belong here. Folks don't like outsiders poking their nose where it don't belong." Jasmine didn't flinch. "Justice belongs everywhere." The standoff stretched. Sweat trickled down Rick's temple. He forced a smirk, backed away from Emily, and tugged at his belt. "Fine, y'all have your fun, but don't forget who runs this town." He turned and sauntered back toward his cruiser. Though his stride was heavier now, angrier, Emily collapsed onto the courthouse steps, tears blurring her vision. Her chest heaved, shame clawing at her ribs. Then Jasmine knelt beside her, voice gentle now. "You okay, honey?" Emily shook her head. I thought nobody was gonna help me." Jasmine squeezed her shoulder. "That's how men like him. Get away with it. They count on silence. But you're not alone anymore." Emily blinked at her through tears. Why would you help me? You don't even know me." "Because I do know him," Jasmine said, glancing toward the cruiser. "I've seen men like Rick my whole life, and I don't let them win." For the first time in what felt like forever, Emily felt a flicker of hope. But deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Later that night, Ridgeport hummed with whispers. Videos of the incident spread online, grainy but clear enough. People debated in the diner booths, in the church pews, on Facebook threads filled with shouting emojis. Some called Rick a disgrace. Others defended him, saying it was taken out of context. Emily hid in her bedroom, scrolling through the chaos, stomach in knots. She hadn't wanted to be the center of attention. Now she couldn't escape it. Then came the knock on her door. Her mom's voice floated through. "Emily, honey? You've got a visitor." Emily cracked the door open. There stood Jasmine, still sharp in her suit, but with a softness in her smile. She held a stack of folders under her arm. "May I come in?" Emily hesitated, then nodded. Inside, Jasmine sat at the desk, spreading out papers. "I wanted to check on you, and I think we should talk about what happened today." Emily hugged her knees on the bed. "I don't want to talk about it. I know, but that deputy doesn't get to walk away clean. If you let this slide, he'll do it again to you, or someone else. Maybe worse next time." Emily swallowed hard. "Even if I speak up, nobody'll believe me. He's a cop. I'm just me." Jasmine leaned forward, eyes steady. "That's where you're wrong. You're the one who got hurt. Your voice matters. And I'll be right beside you every step of the way." Emily stared at her, torn between fear and the strange new spark of courage. "You really think we could win?" Jasmine's jaw set with quiet fury. "I don't fight battles I don't believe in." The room went silent but heavy, like the world had shifted a little. Emily didn't know it yet, but this was the start of something bigger than herself. The fight for justice had just begun. By the next morning, the courthouse steps weren't empty anymore. Reporters with microphones, protesters with signs, officers standing stiff, trying to look unbothered. Rick Harlan walked through them like a king among peasants, chin high. But beneath his shades, his eyes burned, and across the square Jasmine and Emily stood side by side. The battle lines were drawn. The first hearing was set for a muggy Thursday morning, just 4 days after the incident. Word had spread so fast it felt like the whole town was holding its breath. The courthouse, usually a sleepy place with creaky benches and the smell of old paper, now buzzed with nervous energy. Emily walked in behind Jasmine, her palms slick with sweat. Reporters snapped photos, their flashes popping like fireworks. She tugged at the sleeve of her cardigan, wishing she could disappear. "Keep your chin up," Jasmine whispered as they entered. "He's not the one with power here, not today." But it didn't feel that way when Emily spotted Rick across the room. He lounged in his chair at the defense table, legs sprawled wide, smirk plastered on his face. His lawyer, a slick-haired man from Atlanta, whispered in his ear. Rick chuckled, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Emily's stomach turned. The judge, an older man named Harold Whitmore, tapped his gavel and called the room to order. His voice carried a southern drawl softened by decades on the bench. "We're here to address charges of misconduct brought against Deputy Rick Harlan. Prosecution, you may proceed." Jasmine rose with calm precision, buttoning her jacket. Her voice filled the room like a command. "Your Honor, the facts are plain. Deputy Harlan abused his authority by sexually harassing and assaulting a 19-year-old citizen in broad daylight. Multiple witnesses captured the act on video. This is not a matter of interpretation, it is a matter of justice." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Rick's attorney stood. "Your Honor, this is a gross exaggeration. The videos are misleading. My client merely made a playful comment to a local girl he's known for years. There was no malicious intent. No assault, and certainly no crime." Emily's cheeks burned. Playful? She wanted to shout, but her voice felt trapped inside her chest. The judge frowned. "We'll let the evidence speak for itself. Until then, Deputy Harlan will be placed on temporary suspension without badge or weapon." Rick's jaw tightened. His smirk faltered for just a second before he forced it back into place. As court adjourned, Jasmine leaned close to Emily. "That's the first crack in his armor. Remember, it doesn't take much for a wall to start crumbling." Emily nodded, but fear gnawed at her belly. She'd seen the way Rick looked at her as the gavel fell. Like a predator who'd just been denied a meal. That night, the retaliation began. Emily's phone buzzed nonstop, unknown numbers, leaving voicemails filled with threats. "You're ruining a good man's career. Liar. Watch your back." Her mom paced the kitchen, wringing her hands. "Maybe we should drop this, Emily. You don't know what these people are capable of." Emily stared at the floor. "If I drop it, he wins." Her mom sighed. "And if you don't, he could ruin you." A knock rattled the front door. Emily froze, heart pounding. Jasmine's voice called through. "It's me." Relief flooded Emily as she opened the door. Jasmine stepped inside, her face tense. "I came to check on you. I've been hearing chatter Rick's friends are stirring up trouble." She noticed the stack of voicemails on the counter. She played one. A man's gravelly voice snarled, "Little girls shouldn't lie about good cops. Next time you walk home, you might not make it." Emily's knees nearly buckled. Jasmine grabbed her arm. "This is intimidation. Classic tactic." "But listen to me. Fear is exactly what they want. You've got to be stronger than it." Emily's voice cracked. "I don't know if I can be." Jasmine met her eyes with steel. "Yes, you can. Because you're not fighting alone. I've got contacts in Atlanta who'd take this case national if we need them. He wants to play dirty? Fine, we'll show him what real justice looks like." Emily swallowed hard, nodding, clinging to that flicker of courage. But the fear lingered. Next week, Jasmine organized a press conference outside the courthouse. Reporters gathered, cameras rolled, and townsfolk lined the steps. Some held signs, "Justice for Emily." Others held signs of their own, "Support our cops." The divide was sharp. Emily stood behind Jasmine, her hands trembling as the attorney addressed the crowd. "This isn't about race alone. This isn't about gender alone. This is about abuse of power. When a man with a badge feels entitled to humiliate and assault a citizen, it is an attack on the dignity of every person in this town. Emily Carson deserves justice, and so does Ridgeport." Cheers erupted from half the crowd. Boos from the other half. And then, cutting through the noise, Rick's voice thundered, "You're damn right I'll defend myself." He shoved past reporters, his face red, veins bulging in his neck. "I've served this town for 15 years. I've pulled folks from burning cars, stopped armed robberies, risked my life for people who spit on me. And now some outsider lawyer and a spoiled little girl want to drag my name through the mud?" The crowd roared, split down the middle. Emily's chest seized. The hatred in his eyes when he said, "spoiled little girl," it was like a knife. Jasmine stepped forward, calm but firm. "Deputy Harlan, your service doesn't excuse your crimes. Justice doesn't care about your resume," Rick sneered. "Lady, you don't know this town. You don't know what happens when you poke the wrong hornet's nest." Jasmine smiled coldly. "I'm not afraid of hornets." The cameras caught every word. That night, someone spray-painted LIAR across Emily's car. Tires slashed. Windows cracked. She broke down in the driveway, sobbing, while her mom held her shoulders. Jasmine stood by, fury boiling in her chest. She called the police station, demanding action. But her words were met with silence. The officers closed ranks around Rick, refusing to investigate. It was then Jasmine knew this wasn't just about one cop. This was about a system that protected him. She told Emily the hard truth. "If we're going to win, it won't be in this town. We'll have to take this fight higher state, maybe even federal." Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "But I can't even sleep at night. How do I survive that long?" Jasmine knelt, her eyes softer now. "By remembering why you're fighting. Every woman he's hurt before you, every girl he would have hurt after you. They're all counting on you." Emily clung to those words like a lifeline. 2 weeks later, the second hearing arrived. The courthouse was packed, standing room only. Reporters from Atlanta, even CNN, had shown up. The pressure was building. Emily sat at the witness stand, hands clasped, trying not to shake. Jasmine stood beside her, guiding her through testimony. "Emily, can you tell the court what happened on the square that day?" Emily's voice wavered, but grew steadier as she spoke. She described the heat, his words, the humiliation of his hand lifting her skirt. Her throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. "I felt like I wasn't even a person to him, just something to laugh at." The room was silent. Even the judge leaned forward, listening. Then Rick's lawyer rose for cross-examination. His tone was sharp, mocking. "Miss Carson, isn't it true you wore a short dress that day?" Emily blinked. "It was a summer dress." "That doesn't mean answer the question. Was it short?" "Yes, but..." "And isn't it true you smiled at Deputy Harlan when he approached you?" Her stomach lurched. "I smiled because I was scared." The lawyer smirked. "Or maybe you smiled because you enjoyed the attention. Isn't it true, Miss Carson, that you're exaggerating what happened for publicity?" Emily's chest tightened. She glanced at the crowd, half glaring, half smirking. Panic swelled. She couldn't breathe. Then Jasmine's voice cut in, firm as steel. "Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness." The judge banged his gavel. "Sustained. Move on." Emily exhaled, trembling. Jasmine leaned close, whispering, "You're doing great. Don't let him break you." But inside, Emily felt shattered. After court, they stepped into the blazing sun. The crowd erupted again, shouts of support, shouts of hate. Someone hurled a soda can that clattered at Emily's feet. She flinched. Jasmine raised her voice. "We will not be silenced." The cameras drank it in, but as they pushed through the chaos, Emily whispered, "I can't do this anymore." "I can't." Jasmine stopped, gripping her shoulders. "Yes, you can. You're stronger than you know, and we are closer than ever. One more push, Emily. One more." Emily shook her head, tears streaming. "I just want my life back." Jasmine's eyes softened, her voice trembling now. "I know, honey. I know. But sometimes, we don't get to choose the fight. The fight chooses us." Emily swallowed the sob building in her throat. For the first time, she saw the weight Jasmine carried, too, the exhaustion behind her fire. Maybe this battle wasn't just about her. Maybe it was about every woman Jasmine had ever defended, every injustice she'd ever faced. And maybe, together, they could win. The trial was set for the following month. But in the meantime, Rick grew bolder. One night, as Emily left Jasmine's office downtown, she spotted him leaning against his truck across the street. He clapped slowly, mocking, his grin wide. "Nice performance today, sweetheart," he called. "But you ain't seen nothing yet." Emily froze. Jasmine rushed out, stepping between them. "Stay away from her, Harlan." Rick tilted his head. "Or what? You'll sue me again? You think the law's on your side? The law is me." For the first time, Emily heard the unhinged edge in his voice. This wasn't just arrogance anymore. It was desperation. And desperate men were dangerous. As they drove home, Jasmine's knuckles were white on the wheel. "This ends at trial, one way or another." Emily stared out the window, the streetlights blurring through her tears. "What if we lose?" Jasmine's voice was low, steady but fierce. "Then we appeal, we fight again and again, until he never hurts another soul." Emily pressed her forehead to the glass.